Welcome back to Let's Go Crafting. I'm Connie. This is the fourth video in our Learn to Knit series. This will be the last video that I number. Going forward, we'll just be learning different stitches. So the next stitch we'll learn is the purl stitch, and then ribbing, and then seed stitch. This video will be on how to cast off that very last stitch, and then how to weave in our ends so we have a very nice, neat, and attractive project. So let's get started. Alrighty, so we have been working hard and we are a bit down to our last two stitches to cast off. So the way we do this is this next to last one will be lifted up and over our last one, just like normal, and we'll be left with one stitch left. Now, if we were to take out our needle and start pulling our yarn, the whole thing would come unraveled, and we don't want that. We just worked too hard to get here. We're gonna cut our yarn, and I don't know, my hand from base to tip is about 5 inches, so I leave about a 5-inch tail. That makes it easy for me to weave all these ends in, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I just cut the yarn, and now I have the loop that's on my knitting needle. So I'm going to take my knitting needle out and just set that aside, and then I'm going to take the very end of my yarn and put it into the loop. And now I'm going to pull my yarn through the loop and pull tight. And that makes it so that your project is secure and it's not going to come undone. However, if that's all you do and then you cut your thread right here, it will come unraveled. So the next thing we need is you need a yarn needle. And we have to thread our yarn onto the yarn needle. I really find it too hard to put the yarn into this little hole. So what I do is I take my yarn, I kind of bend it, with a little tail. I stick my needle into that little bend, and I just rub back and forth so that I can make that bend into a tight fold. And then the fold will go into the eye of the needle much more easily. And there, my needle is threaded. To weave our ends in, so we weave our ends in because we don't want to have a project that has all these loose pieces of yarn on them. So in order to weave our ends in, we take a look at the edge of our project. And every time you see a little kind of like an arrow, that's one stitch that was on your needle. So here's one, here's another one, here's another one, and another one. And when we call it weaving in, we're really just sewing in and out of these stitches. So I'm going to take my thread, my yarn. I'm not going to go into this very first stitch because this is the one that we pulled the thread through. So if we were to go into this one, we would take our yarn out and then our project would unravel. So we're going to go to this second stitch, and we're just gonna, these are called legs, so each stitch has 2 legs, a front leg and a back leg. So I'm just gonna go right under this back leg, slip my needle under it, and pull my yarn. You don't need to pull it tight, you just kind of pull it till it's snug, but not pulling your project, making it all bunch up. So we went under that first stitch, so here's our second stitch. So we're going to come up through that leg, and then the next stitch over, we're going to go down through that one. So we're kind of weaving the thread in and out of these stitches. And we're going to do that for about 1 inch or so. And I'm big on using my fingers and hands to measure. So on my thumb, about from here to here is about an inch. So that's how I measure. So I'm almost at an inch. So I'll probably do one more. I'll weave it up in here. And now, just to make sure it's totally secure, I'm going to come back the other way. So I'm going to go back up and down in these stitches that I've already woven in. And that just makes it for sure that it won't come undone. Now that I've done all my weaving, I can cut this close to the edge of the project. Now your projects will have at least two ends, right? You'll have the yarn from the beginning end and the yarn from the ending, from where we ended it. So all I'm going to do is turn my project. I'm going to rethread my yarn into the needle. I'm going to do the little fold method. I simply cannot do it the other way. And now I'm going to weave this end in. And this was why in the beginning when we were casting on, and I said to leave a little bit of an end, this is why, because we want to weave this in. Any threads that are cut right flush at the edge of your project are going to come unstitched. The only way they stay is if we weave in the ends. So we just turn this over. We look at the edge of our project. So you'll see that the starting side of a knitting project looks very different than the other side, the ending side. But you can just, you know, here's a stitch, here's a stitch, here's a stitch, here's a stitch. So you can just kind of look and use your best judgment and just find those stitches. So I'm just going to weave in and out for about an inch, going the one way. And now I'm going to weave in and out. I'm going to go back the way I came. And my yarn is getting slightly short, but that will be okay because I can get most of the way back. And the last one. And there you go. That is how you cast off. So any project, well, that's how you weave in. Any project that you do, you will cast on. You will knit your project in whatever stitch the pattern calls for, or you may choose to make up your own pattern. But when you get to the end, you will then cast off, and then you will weave in your ends. And that's all there is to it. If you liked this video and you don't want to miss the next one, please subscribe and press the bell. That way you'll get notifications every time a new video comes out. And the best way to help our channel is if you would please like and share it with all of your friends. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.